Um, just to give a bit of an overview, and I'll have Bryce go into more detail. Thunderstruck is a company that was started by Bryce and I about 10 years ago now, or something like that. About 10 years ago, and we thought, well, we can do what everybody else is doing. We'll go ahead and do our own little junior exploration company, and it's a bit more difficult than it might seem at the time. It took us a few years, actually, of looking before we came across these prospects in Fiji that really attracted us. The issue with these prospects were that they were found, they were discovered, and even drilled, some of them, in the mid-1970s. So at the time that we had them, had been sitting there for 35, 40 years, and nobody had really done anything on them since their original discovery. There's a list of reasons why, but basically it fell into the hands of some Australian people who just were using it as kind of a lifestyle thing. They weren't really progressing them. So we were able to option the properties, clean up a lot of things, including our agreement with them, and then get to work on the ground repairing relations with the government that group had kind of damaged. The government, in effect, was kicking them out, and we came in right behind them. And through the efforts of Bryce, who has a very engaging personality, if you've never noticed, she was able to go in and spend some time and actually live in Fiji for a while. In some cases, sitting in the huts, drinking kava and the like for hours on end, listening to tribal elders, work which thankfully I did not have to do. But regardless, I would say that we have relations with the government and on the ground in Fiji that no one else can duplicate and certainly not exceed. So that's all part of a bigger picture that Fiji, as an exploration frontier, this is a play on that, very generally. Very specifically, we have two high-grade, ultra-high-grade VMS projects that were drilled, have very small resources, but very high-grade results on the order of 20% zinc over, how many meters is that, 3 or 4 meters for that? Yeah, but just barely touched. We were in a joint venture with Jogmec, a Japanese company, but we got a lot of money and advanced it from them, and then were able, thankfully, to get out of that joint venture because it really wasn't conducive to advancing them. So we got those projects back with a lot more knowledge. Those VMS projects, if you project the geologic structures, have up to 30 kilometers of strike. They need to be drilled. What really needed to be drilled, though, was our Liwa gold-silver project. This has never been touched by a drill. We're talking about 3 kilometers of strike of gold-silver, high-grade in many cases, gold-silver surface anomalies that are coincident with geophysical anomalies. And to kind of clarify that, you go through and you sample on the ridges, spurs, wherever you can get to the ground, and you do soil samples to try and identify where you have occurrences or anomalous occurrences of precious metals and identifier minerals. In this case, we got some really exceptional, in the previous work over literally decades, some really exceptional grades of gold and silver over extensive lengths, large-scale anomalies. We have 4 to 5 of these over a 3-kilometer trend. We went back and 2 years ago and did geophysical surveys, which is actually penetrating the ground with radiomagnetic energy to get the readouts to see what kind of resistance or conductiveness the underlying rock provides. Those yielded a validation in showing these geophysical anomalies underlying the chemical anomalies, the actual sampling on the ground, and at depth there's something down there feeding what we're finding on the surface. So from my standpoint, if I was objective and not a major shareholder and not a founder, I would look at this as an analyst and say this just needs to be drilled. Fortunately, we were talking to a lot of people who also agree that it needs to be drilled, one of whom was a man named Ian Gendel, who is a very successful Australian mining entrepreneur financier, has a huge, huge discovery in Australia. He's a billionaire that we were talking to about Fiji. He likes Fiji in general, likes our projects. He bought about a third of the company a little over a year ago. And more importantly, even than his money, is the fact that he brought his geological team, because quite frankly, that was an area where we were weak. We had great relations with the government, great getting the ground, great governance, everything else, but the geological team was where we were weak. And the guy that they had, that Ian brought in to direct our exploration program, Pete Durden, is frankly one of the best I've ever seen. I've been in intimate meetings with him, staff meetings. He is an amazing guy. And again, serially successful, he's Ian's top guy, and he's directing our program. After all these years, we are now drilling. We have a drill that was custom built for our terrain, our projects in Indonesia, that was brought in by one of the top mining companies that frankly would not really talk to us before Ian came on board. This company is at our beck and call because they want Ian's work in Australia. So it's a great position to be in. And just between us, not that this isn't obvious, Ian is willing to keep drilling. You know, companies will drill a prospect and you have to say, well, will they be able to raise money to keep drilling? We will be drilling. Ian wants to drill the heck out of this and all the prospects and get more land in Fiji. The question is at what price, of course. So what's the dilution? We get some good drill results out. We can do that without doing much more financing. We get good drill results. We get a better share price. We can finance with much less dilution. Ian is willing to write the checks. What we're looking for, frankly, is trying to get other people who want to write the checks alongside of him. And so we're going to kind of describe all of that. But we are drilling right now, fair to say. We are challenged by the onset of the rainy season, which is a week or two away, I would think. So we're going to try and get as much drilling as we can in, but it's encouraging right now. Nobody knows, you know, nobody knows. But the drilling is going a little slower than we would like because the ground is really fractured. And the geologists are telling us that's precisely what you want to hear, so don't get too discouraged about the speed of the drilling. It's because we're hitting the kind of rock that we were looking for. And that's where we are. So that's a preview, I guess. That might be a complete overview. Did he got anything else to add to that, Bryce?
I can certainly go into more detail. For sure, for sure. Thanks, Brien. Just so happy to be here in person again. Jeez, it's been a few years. So as Brien was saying, here we go. So this is Fiji, and these are our assets. We have 4 assets, just to clarify. We have 4 properties, but they're on 2 special prospecting licenses. The gold asset that Brien was mentioning is kind of our favorite, and it's the least explored because it's never been drilled until this year. We've started drilling it this year for the first time. Then we also have 2 zinc copper properties called Nakoro and Korakayu. And Rama is a copper gold porphyry. So the 2, Nakoro and Korakayu are zinc copper high grade. They were drilled by Anglo, as Brien was mentioning, back in the day. We did a deal with the Japanese on Korakayu down at the bottom there and got quite a bit of drilling done with them before their deal with us lapsed, and now we have it back 100%. So all of these assets are ours 100%. And also, we just recently applied for and we'll be getting an extension here so that when we have our crews and our trucks and everything, drills and whatnot, on one property, we can more easily get it over to the other assets. So that's in process, and it'll get approved. It's just nearly finished. We just want it approved by next season. Our seasons generally run, say, April through October, and then it's the cyclone season where we just assess all of our data from the previous season. So by the time we get back to drilling again next April, we should have the assets in between as well. They'll be ours. So just as a quick snapshot, this is where Fiji is in relation to the rest of the world. It's around a 3-hour flight from Brisbane and around 2,000 miles from New Zealand as well. We have 127 million shares outstanding right now, and we're trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol AWE. I don't think, let me see. Oh yeah, here, I just wanted to show you guys the other mines on the island. You can see Vatukoula has been in production since 1934, still in production. It's a gold mine, quite deep, and still has a couple, I think 3 million ounces left in it. So that one's still going for sure. Line 1 is will be a gold mine. They have their permitting, and I think they're going to go into production in the next year or two. So they have their permit, and you can see there's a huge, massive copper gold porphyry owned by Newcrest, and Mitsubishi owns 24% of it, and Newcrest owns the rest. So that's one of the largest copper gold porphyries, I think, in the world that's under development right now with them. All of this to say that there's a lot of mining on the island. There's 332 islands, but this is the main island. This is where the international airport is, and this is where we are. Our office is very close to the assets and to the main city of Nandi, the international airport as well. So it's mining friendly, which is really good for us because they adhere to British mining law. They're mining savvy, and we can get a very skilled workforce from all of these other projects as we go. So what else do I want to talk about? I want to get into the projects here. Yeah, so we get a very skilled workforce. We have an amazing team. One of the advantages to my daughter and I being trapped in Fiji during COVID, because they locked the borders for almost a year and a half, was that I know, and I left my house empty in Toronto, outside of Toronto, thinking, oh, we'll get it back, we'll get out. 7 months later, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll rent it, because I don't know. So there was a lot of disadvantages to being stuck somewhere where you can't, and tourism is around 80% of the country, so when you don't have any, they lost all of their livelihood, so there was a lot of, they're all unemployed. We were allowed to work as an essential service, so we were one of the only employers on the island throughout COVID, which is, it makes you feel good, but it's also very stressful because you can't, they're feeding their entire villages with, with one guy that's working for us. But anyway, we all got through it. And one of the many advantages, actually, of being there so long is, first of all, we tightened our ship with our crew. I have the best team you can possibly get in Fiji because we're there. I got the hardest workers, and we kind of cleaned shop quite a bit while I was there because you can really see who's working, who isn't working. And so right now we have the best team, and that we can trust to completely run the program in my absence if I'm not there or if our technical guys are not on the ground. This is arguably our favorite asset, the Liwa gold-silver asset, and I can't really see it here, sorry. I've got to get my glasses. Yeah. So this one's never been drilled. It's being drilled right now, and this is the one Brien was mentioning that we've done a lot of surface work on it, a whole bunch of geochemical sampling and trenching, and as you can see here, it came back like really high grade. I'll show you the areas. We delineated 4 targets from all of the work that we did through geochemical sampling and geophysical surveys, which, as Brien was mentioning, kind of shows what might be underneath the earth. So we can only know by testing, by drilling it. It's pretty tiny here. And this is our drill program. We are currently drilling over at the Vadu Levu one, at the drill pads there. And then I think we're going to have to call it a day, call it a season, and wait until we'll just submit all of the drill samples to Australia, to ALS in Brisbane. And then we'll just be assessing them over the cyclone season months to see what we got over there. And then as soon as the season dries sometime in April, the drill's going to stay on site. This is the good thing, that we bought our own drill, built it in Indonesia, and it is at Liwa right now, and we're going to keep it in a sea container right on the next target so that we can very easily get just back in there and get going again as soon as the dry season starts in April. So again, a really high grade, and all we have to do is drill it. It's finally ready. Now we have 4 assets, like I mentioned. That was our gold, silver one, precious metals. And we have 2 zinc copper assets. This is the one that was in a deal with the Japanese government. It had a historic resource on it back in the day from the late 70s. Tiny resource, but very high grade, 8% zinc, 2% copper by Anglo. And then we went back in there and re-drilled it and came back with even higher grades than what they had drilled historically. So that was, I guess, a happy result. we think that we've got at least 15-kilometer strike length on this, and several pods, as you can see here, zinc, copper, VMS, they tend to go in little pods. So we would like next season, we want to get up to Kula Creek that you see right here and start drilling that one, because that one has not been drilled yet. And we've done all the surface work. It's all ready to go. So we want to get back in there next season. We're going to have a heavy drill season next year because we're 100% ready, and we've got the drill sitting there. We've got the full team, and as Brien mentioned also, having Ian Gandel's full technical team to support us is going to make this journey so much more exciting for us. This is a Korakayo. That was the drilling that we did with the Japanese government. It's just a summary. As I said here, it came back, like hole 17, came back higher grade than what Anglo had drilled previously. So it's almost like 14% zinc, 3% copper, and a bunch of silver and not too bad gold as well, over 11 meters. So this is some drill sections, and that's the drill summary. So we didn't get to drill that this year on this project, but we're going to go right back at it next year because now it's ours 100%, so we can do whatever we like with it. I already showed you that. Okay, Nikoro is the other zinc copper asset that we have, and we have not re-drilled it. Anglo drilled it already, as you can see. Also very high grade zinc, not very high copper, but pretty high zinc percentages. And they did a resource of almost 12% zinc and 0.64% copper in the late 70s. And it's still historical. We got to get back in there and drill it and do a bit of work. So next season, I don't think we're drilling this one next season. We might, but we're definitely going in there to do a bunch more geochemical and mapping and whatnot. We're going to get in there for sure. This is our fourth asset, our Rama copper gold. It's a porphyry, so it was also drilled by Anglo, and they only did, I think, 4 holes or so, but one of them came back 244 meters, 0.22% copper. It's low grade, but that's what porphyries are. They tend to be massive, like very large, and very low grade. Had quite a bit of gold in it too. So we have not re-drilled it. We plan on doing so, but we did discover, we did a bunch of geochemistry, we did some mapping and trenching, and discovered just to the south of it, that Senecura gold zone that you see there. We discovered that. So this is happy times for us. Ian wants us to put a drill up there next season as well, get a drill going and get a couple holes into this Senecura gold zone that we discovered and see what we have there. Because what we've done already on it, it just came back. See, we did a bit of geophysics on it, as well as a whole bunch of geochem. So that is all 4 of our assets. This is the management team is myself. Wilson is our CFO. He's a local. We try to hire as many locals as possible. And it's a small pool of talent. There's only 1 million people across all of the islands. But we've been, again, another advantage of me being there, I got to meet pretty much everybody on the island. so we got the cream of the crop as far as me trying to poach people that were really good at whatever they were doing somewhere else and trying to get them to work for us. And we're good company. Everyone likes working for us, as far as I know. Or so they say to my face anyway. And so the CFO, he's Fijian. And Rob is our VP. He's out of Vancouver, and he started out as a shareholder, a large, sizable shareholder, until eventually I said, "Can you just work for us? Like, quit wherever you are, because you know more about the story than we do, almost." Like, he knew this story inside out. So now he's been working with us for a few years, and does all of our investor relations and whatnot. These are all of our directors. Brien and myself, we started it. Lawrence is our technical director, as well as Linnea. They're both geologists. Lawrence has been around for a long time. Linnea is a friend of mine for 30 years or so. Geo, and just sort of independently wealthy investor. So she's a shareholder of Thunderstruck as well. And these are our advisors. We have a really good advisory board now. So Tookie, he's also a sizable shareholder. Ian Gandel owns 25%, as we mentioned, and he will be coming into every financing for at least 25%. He said he'll finance all of it if we like, but at minimum, he'll be our lead order on any financing we do, which is wonderful. Tookie also owns a lot. He also comes into every financing as well. So that makes it de-risks the project, or de-risks the company in terms of investment if you guys are considering to come in as investors, because we know even through these tough times that we're backstopped, and we do have 2 very wealthy, independently successful, serially successful entrepreneurs who will be backing us all the way through this. And these other two people, Tony Lethlean and Peter, are two of the technical guys that Ian has brought on board. Pete Dwarden has discovered a copper gold porphyry that is currently in production in Australia, one of Ian's companies. So he discovered this large copper gold porphyry and now is working with us to try to advance not just our porphyry, but he's focusing a lot on our Lewa gold asset as well. And Chris Raffle has been to our project, been to Fiji a few times now for us as our technical advisor. He's been with us kind of from the beginning, but as we move forward, we want to have a full-time team, not just consultants. And so we're moving in that direction with Pete and Tony Lethlean. We hope that they will be more full-time for starting next season.